Hello, wrestling fans, and here I am with I guess, retro review, as I will be reviewing WWF Summerslam 1990. This pay-per-view event, took place back on August 27th of 1990 from the Spectrum in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was noted for a lot of things. First of all, the first time the late Rowdy Roddy Piper commentated a pay-per-view, as he commentated with Vince McMahon. And the show kicks off with tag team action. And we're set to see the newly formed, at the time, Power and Glory, Paul Roma and the Mighty Hercules, with their manager Slick, to battle with the Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. Before Michaels and Jannetty entered the ring, they were attacked from behind, and Hercules took his chain and hit Michaels right in the leg with it, preventing him from competing in the matchup. My understanding, Michaels had been working with I don't know, it was 2 nights before the show, or a few weeks before the show happened. Michaels had problems with his knee, and it was practically wound up a handicap match, as Jannetty had no other choice but to go it alone. Michaels tried to get up to the apron, but he was always knocked down by either Hercules or Roma. At one point, Jannetty, he small packaged Roma, but I think Slick came up to the apron and distracted the referee. Later in the match, Jannetty had small packaged Hercules, but Hercules managed to tag Roma. Jannetty ended up hitting Roma with a great power slam and hit Hercules with a super kick. Then he climbed the top rope and hit a fist drop on Roma, but Hercules disrupted the count. Hercules hit a clothesline from the apron on Jannetty, and it was pretty academic from that point. Hercules and Roma double flapjacked Jannetty. Hercules hit another clothesline and then gave hit their finisher, the double teaming powerplex, where Hercules suplexes Jannetty off the top rope, and Roma did a splash from the top rope. And after getting the pin, Roma threw Michaels into the ring, and they started to beat him down even more. And Piper said on commentary about the Rockers, "Oh, they look like Mick Jagger and David Bowie right now." And Michaels had to be stretchered from the ring. Then we see Sean Mooney interviewing Mr. Perfect and Bobby the Brain Heenan for Perfect's match with the Texas Tornado for the Intercontinental Championship, and Mooney asks Perfect, is it a wise decision to accept a challenge from someone you don't know much about? And Heenan made a joke that, that all tornadoes do are, flip over homes, and the promo ended with Perfect saying nobody beats Mr. Perfect, and he and Heenan saying nobody simultaneously. Perfect and Heenan go to the ring, and then while Perfect's music is still playing, Gene Okerlund's interviewing Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado, who's sporting a yellow wrist tape and yellow trunks. And Kerry does the interview, and then all of a sudden, Kerry comes out, and he takes his robe off. He's wearing white trunks, and he's wearing any wrist tape at all. And, it makes you wonder, how did he change his trunks so quickly, unless the interview was taped earlier in the day, which only an explanation I could think of. Match starts out with Kerry pushing Perfect into the corner. Perfect, powders outside to the ring. Perfect comes back in, gives Tornado an arm drag and a hip toss. And then, I forgot how Tornado turned it around with a hip toss of his own, and I think he did an arm drag. He clotheslined Perfect out of the ring. Perfect rebounded with a sleeper hold, and then he released it by putting Tornado in the corner, and he was punching him, slapping him in the face, and trash talking him in the corner. And then Tornado no-sold that by slingshotting Perfect into the ring post, then puts on the Von Erich claw hold, and then hits the Tornado punch or discus punch, and Tornado pinned Perfect to win the Intercontinental Championship. And then we see Gene Okerlund in the back. He was hoping to talk to Sapphire about her match with sensational Queen Sherry, but instead Perfect and Heenan come in, disrupting Okerlund, and they're both livid about the match, the way the match went. And Perfect ended the promo by saying that what was rightfully to be returned to the Heenan family. So we go back to the ring, and sensational Queen Sherry is already in the ring. And, Perfect, Heenan, and Okerlund, and Gene Okerlund, and Sapphire, 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 and Gene Okerlund And then out come, well, the music, the late Dusty Rhodes' entrance music plays, and we're expecting Sapphire to come out. She was ringing out to Howard Finkel, introduced her like 3 or 4 times, and she doesn't come out. The music stops, the music starts up again. Then she's introduced again, and then the music stops, and then out comes Rene Goulet, who was an agent at the time, and I guess he told Finkel and the referee that she wasn't back there. And Finkel announces that, that if Sapphire does not come out, she will forfeit the match. And it was like she had 30 seconds, and then all of a sudden it was 20 seconds. And then when Finkel was counting down from 10 seconds on, Sherry takes the microphone, and she's counting down all the way. And the late Roddy Piper, he says, maybe that's it. He says, and that is why they call her Scary Sherry, because she just scared them away. And Sherry had won the match by forfeit. Then we see Okerlund interviewing Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty wondering where he couldn't find Sapphire 10 minutes after they arrived in the building, and was asking everybody where she's at. Jim Duggan even came on camera, and Dusty, he tells Dusty they still haven't found her. And Dusty was concerned why Sapphire was receiving these gifts from a benefactor. And Dusty was saying, hey, nobody gets something for nothing. And Dusty ends the interview by saying to Okerlund, I'm sorry, Gene, but I got to go and find Sapphire. Then we have our next matchup, which saw the Warlord with Slick go one-on-one with Tito Santana. Tito was supposed to wrestle the model Rick Martel, but Martel, I believe, was injured at the time. Martel, they did a storyline, because they did announce the match on TV. It would be Tito against Martel, but then they said Martel wasn't going to be able to make it because he was going to be doing a fashion show in Paris, France. So that was just a cover-up because Martel, I believe, was hurt at the time. Some kind of an injury. Classic, not like your typical, big man versus smaller man match. I mean, well, Tito put a headlock on Warlord. Warlord picked him up and threw him off. Tito floored Warlord with 2 or 3 drop kicks in the early going, to the point Warlord went out, powdered out to the floor. Tito, wow. Eventually Warlord, I forgot how, but he used his power to take over, and eventually Tito made a comeback. He actually hit Warlord with the flying forearm, and Tito went on top, and the referee's counting, but Warlord put his foot on the rope before the referee counted 3. Then Tito went for a monkey flip in the corner. Warlord holds onto the top rope, and Tito, bumps on the mat. Then Warlord scoops him up for the over-the-shoulder power slam and pins him to pick up the victory. And after the match, the late Roddy Piper says on commentary, just too big, too strong, and too ugly. And then he says, somebody feed him a fish. I'm sorry, folks, but the late Roddy Piper was not a good commentator. I mean, first of all, he called the Rockers Mick Jagger and David Bowie. I forgot to mention, during the Tornado Perfect match, he kept calling Tornado the Whirlwind. And now, saying about the Warlord saying somebody feed him a fish. Then we see Sean Mooney interviewing all 3 members of Demolition for the tag team title match against the Hart Foundation. And Mooney was saying, wait a minute, this says only 2 members of Demolition at SummerSlam. Axe tells Mooney, you didn't read the fine print. It says only 2 Demolition at ringside. And then Mooney says, if should you be successful tonight, you may have to face the Legion of Doom in the future. And Crush calls Legion of Doom second-rate imposters, and eventually they walk off, and Smash and Crush come to the ring for the matchup. And then we see Okerlund interviewing the Hart Foundation, and Jim, the late Jim the Animal Neidhart, he basically stole this promo. He was asked, what about you, Animal? What do you think? He says, think! And of course he had to have his hideous laugh featured more than once in this promo. And he says, they don't pay me to think, they pay me to be tough, like an anvil. He says, it never mattered to me because when I get in the ring, I just don't care. And then Neidhart eventually says, After the heart attack, we're going to give you, you'll be buying pacemakers for the truckload. So the Heart Foundation coming to the ring to a great ovation from the crowd. And I forgot to mention, this was 2 out of 3 falls. In the early going, they started out slow, and first fall was pretty good. And one point, I can't remember everything, folks. I'm sorry, but at one point, I think one point they were really, it was like getting hot and heavy in the first fall. I think, Crush and Neidhart were out on the floor. At one point, Brett was like had Demolition going. He threw Smash into Crush. Crush ended up out on the floor. Brett gives Smash the Russian leg sweep, which the late Brad Armstrong used as a finisher in WCW. But for some wacky, weird reason, all these years, I would refer to that as the Grapevine neck breaker. Now that didn't do in Smash. Brett hit his second rope elbow drop. In the meantime, Crush, I think, threw Neidhart into the guardrail. Brett had hit the second rope elbow on Smash, but Crush interrupted by leg dropping the back of Brett's head. Smash tags Brett, and they hit the Demolition decapitation, and Crush pins Brett, enabling Demolition to win the first fall. Second fall gets underway, and eventually Brett tagged Neidhart, and Neidhart was cleaning house. I think Neidhart did his shoulder block in the corner on Smash. Brett knocked Crush off the apron. Then they gave Smash the heart attack clothesline finisher. Brett gets on top of Smash, and I don't know if something went wrong here. The referee's counting. Crush runs over. He stops Earl Hebner, the referee, from counting, and he picks him up in like a bear hug. And, eventually Earl Hebner breaks free from Crush and calls for a disqualification, enabling the Heart Foundation to take the second fall. I don't know if something went wrong there, or if Crush didn't get there when he was supposed to. An unsolved mystery, I suppose. Just before the third and deciding fall got underway, Crush hits Brett from behind, knocking him to the floor. Neidhart goes to check on him. Smash and Crush are arguing with Hebner. Out comes Axe from the back, and he hides underneath the ring. And Smash eventually is out on the floor, and as referee tries to move Brett away from the ropes, Axe comes out from underneath the ring, and he's doing a number on Brett. Brett strikes back, and he throws Axe to the corner. Axe comes out of the corner, hits Brett with a pretty wicked clothesline, and the late Roddy Piper got in cheerleader mode from this point on in this match. After Brett took that clothesline, Piper says, "Get up and make a tag! Get up now!" That would be really bad, if he didn't sell that clothesline. And, eventually, Axe takes Brett out to the floor. Smash comes back out from under the ring, and Axe and Smash are double-teaming Brett. I think Neidhart got sent out to the floor again by Crush, much like the first fall. Brett's back in the ring with Smash, but then the Legion of Doom come out. Smash, he stun guns Brett on that top rope. Legion of Doom pull Axe out from underneath the ring. Hawk trips up Crush from the top rope. Smash leaves the ring as the Legion of Doom are leaving the ringside area. While Crush is still in the ring, Neidhart launches himself from the apron over the ropes, hit a flying shoulder block on Crush. Crush fell over Brett, and Brett schoolboyed him and pinned him, enabling the Heart Foundation to win the tag team championship, to a huge pop from the crowd. And this may have been the best match of the show. Then we go to an interview where Okerlund is interviewing the Legion of Doom, and Animal was saying, week after week, we said we want Demolition, they ignored us. And Hawk says, the Demolition has been running roughshod over everybody, and if they look up roughshod in the dictionary, they'd see a picture of them calling them micro mini men in a big man's world. Then he did his "Oh What a Rush" shtick. Then the Hart Foundation come on camera with the belts, and Neidhart is jubilant while Bret, I'm sure they were still exhausted from the match, and Bret's still cool, calm, and collected, and we know Bret Hart was never a good talker in wrestling, as we know. In the meantime, after that interview, Sean Mooney, he's trying to get a word with Demolition. You hear the three of them like screaming gibberish, and Mooney's like trying to get into the door, and Mooney gets the door open, and you hear Crush in the background. Nobody messes with Demolition, and Mooney says now's not a good time to talk to Demolition. Then we see Okerlund interviewing sensational Queen Sherry, and you know Sherry was going about her forfeit win over Sapphire earlier in the night, and Sherry was saying when you're so good and when you intimidate your opponent to the point where they don't even show up, you can gloat all you want to. And Okerlund was talking about that there were earlier sightings of Sapphire earlier in the day, and Sherry says, "Earlier sightings? What is she, a UFO?" And Sherry was saying, "I'm starting to think she's not so dumb after all." And then she says, you know, she was smart enough not to show up in her match with me, and she said she heard a few rumors, and she said she may be the smartest person. And at one point, Okerlund says to Sherry, "I fail to see what's funny about a missing person." And Sherry says, "I said she was missing. I didn't say anything about her being a person." And then Okerlund says, "On that note, we'll take a 5-minute intermission." And then he sees Sherry and says, "I'm going to look for Sapphire myself." And the two of them walked off camera separately. Funny moment. Then, after the intermission, Okerlund... Well, actually, it was the intermission for those watching on pay-per-view, by the way. After that, Okerlund ran down the rest of the show that was yet to come. And Okerlund interviews the Big Boss Man about refereeing the Jake Roberts Bad News Brown match. Boss Man mentioned that he's not afraid of snakes or anything from a sewer, and said that he will be there to make sure justice prevails. Then we see Sean Mooney interviewing Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov about their match with the Orient Express. And Volkov, who had become a face like maybe 2 months before this pay-per-view took place. And Volkov says, "I love this country and I love Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He's my idol." And basically, honestly, you know, Volkov was not a great talker. Then let's see, we had... Okay, Mooney talked with Duggan and Volkov. Then we had... Gene Okerlund interviewed Earthquake, Dino Bravo, and Jimmy Hart about Quake's match with Hulk Hogan later in the show. And Quake talked about when he ambushed Hogan on the Brother Love show a few months earlier, and that Tugboat intervened in rallying the fans to convince Hogan to come back. And then they talked about that Quake took out Tugboat prior to SummerSlam so he wouldn't be in Hogan's corner. And Quake said there'd be 2 stretchers side by side for Hogan and the Big Boss Man, who replaced Tugboat in Hogan's corner. And after that interview, we see Sean Mooney interviewing Jake the Snake Roberts for his match with Bad News Brown. Kind of a funny interview where Roberts had Damien wrapped around himself. He was wrapping himself around Jake's neck, his face, and his ear. And Jake Roberts says, "I'm not afraid of rats because I don't have to be." And and then we go back to the action, and we have the match between Bad News Brown and Jake the Snake Roberts, refereed by the Big Boss Man. And just as Jake's music started, you hear Roddy Piper on commentary saying, "Jake looked like something from Star Trek the way that snake was wrapped around him." And the silly part was, Bad News was already in the ring, Jake comes to the ring, but Boss Man had yet to come out, and the bell rings before the Boss Man even gets to the ring. Not much of a match here. Bad News tried to go for his Ghetto Blaster finisher early, but Jake dropped to a knee. Bad News gave Jake a leg drop, and he was going to pin him, went for a pinfall by putting his foot in the middle of Jake's chest. Boss Man gets down the count, and Bad News says, "Hey man, 1, 2, 3, and he pokes Boss Man in the chest. Boss Man does this. And he pokes Bad News in the chest, says 2 count. And then Jake gets up, kicks Bad News in the gut, tries for the DDT, but Bad News managed to get out of the ring rather quickly. Jake comes outside and goes after him. Bad News gets the upper hand. Then he grabs a chair and hits Jake in the midsection with it. Bossman steps outside instead of disqualifying, and he gives him a warning, and he tells Bad News, get in the ring. So Bad News gets in the ring, Bossman follows, Bad News goes back outside, and eventually, Bad News missed a second rope fist drop. Roberts hit a few left jabs, then he hit his short clothesline, tried for the DDT, but Bad News avoided it by backdropping Jake, and then he gave Jake some kicks. Jake rolled out to the floor. Bad News grabbed the chair, hit Jake in the midsection a second time. This time the Bossman called for the bell, DQing Bad News. And as Bossman's checking on Roberts, Bad News grabs the bag containing the snake, Damien, brings it to the middle of the ring. Bad News tries for a leg drop, but Bossman pulls the bag with Damien out of the way. Looks like Bossman and Bad News were going to go at it. Bossman turns around. Bad News attacked him from behind. Roberts takes Damien out of the bag, tries to put it on Bad News, and Bad News really sold with his screaming. Like he was so scared of that. And I think within the next month, Bad News was actually gone from the company. Okay, then we see... Oh, yeah. Yeah, we see Gene Okerlund interviewing Demolition, who apparently put fresh face paint on after the match. And they did an interview saying they're going to, that before they go try to get the tag belts back, they're going to go after the Legion of Doom. And it ended with Smash saying, "We're finished with you, Hawk. You'll be hawking hot dogs in the stands." Then Crush says, "An animal? You'll be neutered once and for all." Then it was time for the Brother Love show, and his guest was the recently returned Sergeant Slaughter, who had presented this big medal, the Sergeant Slaughter Great American Award, to Brother Love. And Slaughter basically talked about he put America down, and he was basically being wrestling's Benedict Arnold at the time, and he said he was going to kick Nikolai Volkov's butt. Then we see Sean Mooney interviewing the Orient Express, Sato and Tanaka, and their manager, the late Mr. Fuji. And Fuji, honestly, guys, was never a great promo man as a manager or even when he wrestled. But Sato and Tanaka, in my opinion, that was the best version of the Orient Express. When Sato ended up out of the team and they brought in Kato, which was Paul Diamond under a mask. Diamond and Tanaka were known as Bad Company in the AWA previously. And by the way, people might laugh here, but Tanaka, to me, he looks like actor Branscombe Richmond. For those who don't know who that is, he played Bobby Sixkiller on the TV show Renegade. Right then, as that Mooney's interview with the Orient Express went on, Mooney says, "Orient Express, I'm terribly sorry, but we have some breaking news. Let's go down to Mean Gene Okerlund." And Okerlund says, "All right, this is the moment I've been waiting for. Sapphire, hey, wait a minute, Sapphire!" And Sapphire went into a door, and she didn't come out. And we go back to the ring for the Orient Express with Mr. Fuji, taking on Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov. Prior to the match, Duggan and Volkov sing "God Bless America." And after they got done singing, Sato and Tanaka attacked Volkov and Duggan from behind. And then they... Duggan and Volkov eventually retaliate. Orient Express powder outside. And then eventually, I think they managed to, they managed to get on. Oh yeah, actually that's what happened. Tanaka went for a body press. Volkov catches him, but Sato climbs the top rope, delivers a chop to the back of Nikolai, and at one point Duggan comes in the ring, and Tanaka holds Volkov against the rope for Mr. Fuji to hit him with that wooden cane of his. Volkov takes punishment until he gives Duggan the hot tag, and Duggan does a number on both members of the Orient Express. The end came when Volkov and Duggan throw Sato and Tanaka into each other. Volkov hits Sato with a clothesline from behind, knocking him out of the ring. Duggan hits his 3 points 3-point stance clothesline on Tanaka, and Tanaka does a 360 flip, and Duggan pins Tanaka, enabling him and Nikolai to win the match. And to me, at that point, that was the beginning and the end of that version of the Orient Express. I was surprised Duggan and Volkov actually won that match back when I first saw the show. Okay, let me see. And then after that, all of that, we see Okerlund and Dusty Rhodes outside the room Sapphire was in. Dusty's knocking on the door saying, "Sapphire, come on out, open the door, baby." And he says to Okerlund, "There's something going down here." And he said he had to go to the ring by himself for his match with Macho King Randy Savage. And just before the match, as Savage and Sherry are getting in the ring, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Virgil are on the interview platform, and DiBiase introduces his latest purchase with Sweet Sapphire. It turned out DiBiase was her benefactor, getting her a diamond necklace, a diamond ring, diamond bracelet, a fur coat, trip around the world, a Cadillac. And DiBiase ended the promo by saying, Dusty, what are you going to do about it?" And Dusty leaves the ring. He was going to go after them, but then he forgot the match with Savage practically, and I feel bad. Rest both Dusty and Randy Savage's souls, but they... they could have had a better... It probably would have been a better match, but it was those damn time restraints. It was done to really sell an angle and show where Dusty was going next. It didn't really show where Savage was going next after this. Dusty mounted a bit of a comeback. He dropkicked Savage out to the floor. Dusty was going to go after Sherry. And Sherry is like, gives Savage her purse, and Sherry gets into the ring, and Dusty's got her by the hair, and the referee's trying to get Sherry out of the ring. Savage hits Dusty with Sherry's purse and pinned him to win the match. Then we see Sean Mooney in the back. He said he tried to catch up with Ted DiBiase, but he was in his private suite. But DiBiase, Virgil, and Sapphire, they come out, and they're about to get in the limousine. And DiBiase says to Mooney, "Listen, peon, I want you to take a look and learn a long, hard lesson. There's nothing, absolutely nothing, that my money can't buy." And Dusty eventually makes it to the back, and Virgil jumps into the limousine, and the limousine then takes off, drives off, and Dusty was very, very disheartened. And after, when they go back to the ring, the late Roddy Piper says, "Well, what was he going to do if he got there sooner? Lay in front of the car?" And Vince McMahon says, "At least get an explanation. She owes him that, Hot Rod." And she says, "I think she gave him one. I quit," she said. "You don't pay enough." And in the meantime, Earthquake, Dino Bravo, and Jimmy Hart are coming to the ring, and the camera's zooming on Quake. You hear Piper say on commentary, "Now, does that look like a warthog, or does that look like a warthog? Maybe he was a mutant rat when he was a kid." Piper was so vicious on commentary, and he, again, was not a good commentator. All right. Then we see Gene Okerlund interviewing Hulk Hogan and the Big Boss Man. Very good promo they did. And this was Hogan's big comeback match after being attacked by Earthquake on TV a few months earlier. Boss Man comes out, and as does Hogan. And, obviously, it was Hogan's comeback, so he wasn't going to lose. And, very good match these two managed to have. I don't know if they were close away from the ring. Quake used his power in the beginning. Hogan would use more agility. At one point he knocked Quake down where literally Quake landed on his hiney. Eventually they're out on the floor, and Bossman and Bravo start getting involved. Hogan and Bossman give Bravo a double boot after whipping him to the ropes, give Earthquake a double boot. Referees try to get Bossman out of the ring, but then Bravo attacks Hogan from behind. Bravo and Quake hit Hogan with a double slam, and then Quake took over. At one point, Quake jumped off the top rope with a forearm to Hogan's back. He put him in a Boston Crab. Hogan eventually grabbed the rope. Quake put Hogan in a bear hug. And as the referee was checking his arm, I don't know if this was supposed to happen. The referee, Hogan, instead of keeping his arm up, he started ripping away at Earl Hebner's shirt. And Piper says on commentary he's going to get DQ'd if he does that. Hogan eventually broke away from the bear hug. He tried for a flying body press, but Quake caught him with the power slam. And then Quake puts his foot in the middle of Hogan's chest, and he's doing this, and the referee's counting, but of course Hogan rolled his shoulder up. Then Quake hits the big one. Those who don't know, it's that vertical splash where he would get ahead of steam running the ropes and sit on an opponent's chest. He hit the move, and Vince McMahon is like trying to make it sound like Hogan's toast here. He says one of the greatest careers of all time is coming to an end. Quake hits the vertical splash, the sit down splash a second time. Referee goes to count. Hogan kicks out and hulks up. Big surprise, everybody. Hogan eventually body slams Earthquake and hits the leg drop, but at that point, Bravo's up in the apron. Bossman comes in with Jimmy Hart, hits the ring, hits Hogan from behind. Hogan grabs Hart, throws him onto Earthquake. They go out on the floor. Bossman is going after Bravo. Hart tries to hit Hogan with the megaphone, but he ends up hitting Quake by accident. Hogan then body slams Earthquake on a table, which does not break. Hogan gets back in the ring and he wins the match by countout. After the bell, Quake and Bravo attack Hogan from behind. Quake's got his hands on Hogan and he lifts on his throat, lifts him up. Bossman hits the ring with a metal chair, hits Bravo in the back with it. He hits Quake in the back with it like 3 times, and I don't know if something went wrong here, but there were like welts or marks on the back of Quake's back from those 3 chair shots Bossman gave him. After the 3rd shot, Quake finally lets go of Hogan, and both Quake and Bravo are ready to go after Bossman. Bossman starts twirling his nightstick, and they decide to skedaddle out of the ring. And then Hogan got up and he posed and flexed to the crowd, and then we go back to Sean Mooney interviewing Rick Rude and Bobby Heenan for Rude's match with the Ultimate Warrior for the steel cage, well, for the world title in a steel cage match, and they kind of compared it to Rocky Balboa for some reason. And they stole from the first Rocky movie when Rude ended the promo by saying, "And there ain't gonna be no rematch." Then we see Gene Okerlund interviewing Dusty Rhodes, talking about what happened with Sapphire. And Dusty said that the $1 Million Man is a man who could buy anything but the American dream, but the American way of life that lives in this heart. And he said he was going to go after DiBiase. Then I think we go back to Lord Alfred Hayes, who was outside, and the ring, the steel cage is being set up for the final match of the night. And Alfred said that the crew had a record for putting the cage up in like 8 minutes and change to put the cage up. I don't know if it takes that long or even longer to put a steel cage up on a wrestling ring. But then we go back to Gene Okerlund, who talked with Hulk Hogan, and Hogan said he wasn't done with Quake, and we go see Roddy Piper and Vince McMahon at the commentator desk, and they talked about that maybe Hogan and Quake want a piece of each other again. Then we see Sean Mooney interviewing Quake, Bravo, and Jimmy Hart, and you could still see those marks on Quake's back from those 3 chair shots Bossman gave him. And Quake eventually ends the promo by saying, "Hogan, next time you won't be walking out." And then Quake walks off camera, and Hart's saying, "Hogan better get earthquake insurance." And Bravo is saying, "It's Hogan. It's only the beginning." Let me see. Anything else I'm missing here? Oh, and yeah, Gene Okerlund interviews the Ultimate Warrior for the cage match it's about to have for the championship. And eventually the match takes place, and Rude's at the top of the cage inside. Warrior's outside. He shows off the belt. He climbs up the cage. Rude starts pounding away, and then the bell rings before Warrior was even in the cage. And I forgot which point in time, but Rude bled after being thrown to the cage. I just feel bad for these two, because really the crowd was pretty much dead for this match. Because, the crowd was pretty much burnt out from Hogan going on before them. Also, they popped big for the Art Foundation, winning the tag belts. I mean, the crowd was really into the show altogether, but really after the crowd was kind of dead for this very matchup. At one point during the matchup, Warrior was throwing his hands up in the air, and Piper was saying, "What does that mean when he throws his hands up in the air?" "Oh, it means he's going to miss, so I see." Rude eventually hits Warrior with the Rude Awakening. I forgot. Warrior tried to go out the door, but Bobby Heenan slammed the cage door in Warrior's face. Rude tried to pin Warrior, but he kicked out. Rude climbed to the top of the steel cage and did a fist on the top of Warrior's head, and it looked like it was over right then and there. Even Roddy Piper was saying, "That's it, I mean, come on." And Bobby Heenan was like trying to open the door, saying, "What are you doing?" And Rude climbed up to the other side of the cage. He was going to come down Warrior again, but Warrior caught him this time. Warrior started, I guess, warrioring up by shaking the ropes and stuff. And he gave Rude like 3 clotheslines. Then he gave him the press slam, and then Warrior climbed out of the cage, doing his best Rick Rude hip swivel before his feet touched the floor. Warrior then climbed back to the top of the cage and showed up the belt. Then he was back inside the ring doing his best Rude hip swivel impersonation and swinging the belt around like it's a lasso or a rope. And then the pay-per-view went off the air. I mean, now the story about this, folks, you're going to be shocked to hear this. I used to have this show on videotape, and it was cool. This one gentleman who used to live right across the street from me, he had gotten me the tape, and I watched it so many times back then. And by the way, at that time I was about 13 going on 14, and I didn't want to give the tape back. Now, rest her soul, my mother sees the guy, and she says to him, "Oh, I hope your friends are not mad that my son hasn't given the tape back yet." And the guy, and this is what I got from my mom, the guy said to my mom, "Oh, no, that tape belongs to you. That tape is for your I'm stumbling my words, I know, folks. That tape I gave him is his to keep." And when that word about that got back to me, I was like so like thrilled. Sadly, I don't have the videotape anymore because I got tired of watching it over the years. But kudos to Alfred, and not Batman's butler, and hopefully he'll see this video. But yeah, SummerSlam 1990, a memorable show. Heart Foundation Demolition, they had the best match of the show. Hogan Quake did very good. Again, I feel bad for Warrior and Rude going out to a practically dead crowd. Jake and Bad News, I don't know what went wrong there. Dusty and Savage didn't even have much of a match. That was just to push a new feud. And I guess what I call the beginning of the end of the original Orient Express, losing to Duggan and Volkov. And of course, Power and Glory, which kicked off the show. I knew they were going to win that match over the Rockers, but it's a shame they never wound up tag team champions. They should have had the belts. So, again, SummerSlam 1990, very good show, and I'll have more. I'll probably do more retro reviews of past pay-per-view events as we go along.